Welcome to Sleepless Readings. Tonight we'll be reading a tale called My Best Friend Had the Voice of an Angel. I wasn't particularly excited when I found out that Carter was going to be my lab partner for the next 10 months. He looked like the type of guy who could just snap one day and beat the shit out of me. I imagined myself accidentally elbowing him and him pushing me out of my chair, straddling me on the floor and beating me to a bloody pulp. He was tall and muscular, and I had never seen him talk to anyone. He walked like a butler, his left hand always extended over his stomach at a right angle, holding an invisible cloth rag like he was scared of anyone getting too close to him. On that first day, we simply had a worksheet that we had to fill out together, using the book to find the answers. Carter, however, wrote down all the answers without once even glancing at the book. When he was finished, he slid his paper over so I could copy. When I was done, he grabbed both of our papers and turned them in. "Thanks," I whispered as he sat back down next to me. He only grunted in response, then laid his head in his hands, using the rest of the class time to nap. That was how the rest of the year went, him doing all the work, me taking half the credits. I always thanked him, and tried to help whenever possible, though he never let me. He never said a word to me, and I never pushed him to talk. I guess that's how we became friends. I had asked him for his phone number one day so I could ask him questions about the homework, and he slid his phone over and let me save myself as a contact. Carter was a completely different person over text. Right there in class, he texted me.
"I'm sorry I don't talk much. How are you?"
"I'm good. How are you?"
"I'm okay. Being your lab partner is fun."
"It doesn't bother me, but how come you don't talk?"
"I'm embarrassed, I guess."
With that, he put his phone back in his pocket and laid his head down to sleep. "It's okay," I said aloud. For the rest of the year, we sometimes texted during class, and I even started to sit with him during lunch. Truth be told, I was very shy too, and he was my only friend. Something about him also being shy made it easier for me to talk to him. I was happy to sit with him and trade texts back and forth, mostly complaining about the food and talking about our classes. One night I was lying in bed, listening to the sounds of my aunt and uncle, my guardians, as the school liked to call them, in another heated argument.
"You are an alcoholic!"
My aunt screamed at him.
"You can't go one day, not one! What happened to all of your promises? What happened to being a better man? We have a kid to raise, I can't do this alone!"
"You're a scumbag,"
he shouted back.
"You filthy bitch. You don't want me to be happy. You just sit around here and do nothing all day while I put food on my table. You don't have this house without me. That dress you're wearing is mine."
Then there was a sound like a clap, then a dish breaking on the floor. I put in my headphones, turned on some music, and texted Carter.
"Hey,
"What's up?"
my aunt and uncle are arguing. He hit her. He hits her a lot. I've never told anyone that, but it's true. I'm scared he's gonna kill her one day. I know I'm a pussy for not getting involved, but I don't know what to do."
"You aren't a pussy. That sounds scary. Does he ever hit you, too?"
I looked down at the bruises on my stomach and chest. He always made sure to hit me when no one would see the damage.
"Yes.
"I'm sorry. What happened to your parents?"
They died. Car accident."
"What's your address? I'll come pick you up."
I gave it to him, and 30 minutes later he texted me that he was outside and we were going to a movie. I walked downstairs. My aunt was crying quietly on the couch, and my uncle was passed out in the recliner, empty beer bottles strewn all around him. I snuck out the front door without either of them noticing me. Carter drove a beautiful big green Jeep, an expensive one. When he saw me, he jumped out of the driver's seat and opened the door for me, then closed it behind me. We went to a movie theater and saw The Bye-Bye Man. It was terrible, but that made the night so much better. We texted occasionally throughout the movie, laughing at the clumsiness it was put together with.
"I bet the script looks like someone had a bot read 1,000 horror scripts and then forced it to write its own. This is an embarrassment to cinema."
We shared a large popcorn and each had a Diet Coke and some M&Ms. It was such a simple night, but I remember it was quite possibly the best I ever had. I got home around 11, and as I walked toward my front door, Carter texted me.
Things will get better for you soon.
I smiled, but as I walked inside and closed the door behind me, the smile was ripped from my face with a slap so powerful I spun around in a complete 180, falling to the floor on my hands and knees as I bit my tongue and blood and spit flew from my mouth. My uncle stood over me, and although his words were slurred and he could barely walk without falling over, every ounce of him radiated strength and power. I tried to get up, but he pushed me down again, then kicked me in the ribs so hard I could feel them break. I tried to scream, but inhaling caused a sharp pain in my chest, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. "Please," I whispered. I was laid out on my side, and when I looked up, I saw my aunt laid out on the couch. When I made eye contact with her, she opened her mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Her mouth and teeth were red. Her tongue was missing. I looked further down and saw that she was holding it tight in her hand, like she was trying to squeeze the life out of it. Or back into it. A quiet gurgling sound came from her throat, and the more she tried to scream, the more blood poured from her tongue and spilled all over the floor and her hands. My uncle turned to her, noticed the blood, and screamed,
"Clean that up, you filthy whore!"
He started to walk toward her, so I stood up and tackled him to the floor. We hit the ground with a thud, but the pain was too much for me. My chest and side felt like they were being stabbed over and over. My hands instinctively went to my ribs, and then he used me as support to stand back up. Then he began to kick me in the head over and over. I felt bones breaking, teeth being forced loose. My face was being caved into my mouth. Then the room started to spin, and the pain became distant. And that's when I realized that he was killing me. He was kicking me to death. I passed out. The malicious lullaby of the sounds of a steel-toed boot against my own bones coaxing me into an eternal sleep. I don't know how long I was out for, but I awoke to a different kind of song. It was angelic. At first I could still only see black, and breathing was difficult. But the beauty of the song took me out of the darkness, relieved my pain. The words were of a language I'd never heard before, and as the darkness left me, I saw who was singing. It was Carter, but the voice was not one that a human should have been able to have. It switched from high to low, hitting every note with a perfection that no singer has ever come close to. As he continued, my wounds healed. The pain went away. I stood and saw my aunt do the same. As the song continued, she opened her mouth. Her tongue was back, and the rest of her wounds had faded with it. I started walking towards her. My footsteps made no sounds, and when I was halfway there, I saw what Carter was standing above. My uncle. He was completely naked, his clothes ripped to shreds around him. I watched as bruises were imprinted all over him, the same bruises that had been put on me and my aunt. Then his tongue came flopping out of his mouth, and I saw his face was indented with the phantom blows of a boot. Though he lashed around and tried to scream, there was no sound, only the song, the beautiful song. I hugged my aunt and we both soundlessly shed tears of joy. I closed my eyes and gripped her tight until the song ended. When I turned around, every trace of both Carter and my uncle were gone. I never saw either of them again. It turns out that my quiet best friend had the voice of an angel, and he used it to save my life. Thank you for listening. That was My Best Friend Had the Voice of an Angel.
Don't forget to like the video, it does help to boost the channel.
There's new stories every Sunday.
So subscribe.
And ring the bell.
Thanks, guys. And, as always, stay sleepless.